Axons Unleashed.
G'day everyone, Robbie Turner's my name. Welcome to another session of Axons Unleashed. I'm actually joined today with a good mate of mine. We met each other as a client, and I'm really happy to report we've sort of maintained comms over the period. We're really good mates now. So I'm joined by Matty Lodden from the Zilor group down in Canberra. You've specially come up from Canberra for this, mate. So welcome to Axons Unleashed.
No, thanks, Robbie. Really enjoying the break from the cold. So it was good opportunity to get away.
When I said to the crew, they're like, really? Have they flown up here from Canberra to come to the podcast? I'm like, Caitlin, who works in the office, I'm like, well, Caitlin was down there 2 weeks ago. She was freezing her ass off. I'm like, it's a spectacular morning here on the Gold Coast. So what did you think literally this morning when you woke up in the hotel with Jen and then your little bub?
Oh, well, I can't remember the last time I wore thongs. So we went for a nice walk down the boardwalk. And
how good.
Jen's out there at the beach now with the kids, so I'm super jealous.
Mate, I didn't get the opportunity to do a posting here to Southeast Queensland, and I know why they call it Bris Vegas and the like. So, yeah, it is fucking gold living here. Just to frame the call, ladies and gents, so, you know, you're going to get lots of gold out of this one. Matt's a ex-army officer, now a veteran, business owner, client of Axon, new dad, all-round superstar, fucking great guy. I just said to him how good the beard looks on you as well, mate, so I know you're enjoying that. So, yeah, please listen into this, ladies and gents, because, you know, if you're out already and you want to start your own business or maybe start your own family, or you're in right now and you want to transition, like literally, you know, just tell us, how long ago did you transition? Not long.
No, so my last proper day was December, like 24th, 23rd.
So we're talking 7 months.
Yeah.
So it's pretty recent. Yeah. Awesome, mate. Can't wait to bloody hear all about your story. You've just walked in the office like 4 minutes ago. I'm like, don't talk to me now. Let's have a chat raw and real online. So you know, I know there's lots changed in your life that I can't sort of wait to hear, you know, firsthand. Tell me, mate, where'd you grow up and why'd you join the military?
Yeah, so I grew up in Western Sydney, and well, I originally was born in England, but yeah, that's nothing here nor there.
How old when you came over then?
3.
Yeah, righto.
So I don't have an accent.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I moved to Western Sydney and grew up there. Went to, you know, public school, high school, graduated, and I always wanted to be a pilot growing up. I don't know where the love came from, but I was really interested in mathematics, physics, all those sorts of things, and economics as well. So I had a keen interest in becoming a pilot. Did some of the research and how do I achieve that? And that's where, you know, sort of ADFA and Army and Air Force.
So you're talking military pilot?
Well, no, so I wanted to be a pilot, and then I was sort of just like, oh, well, what's the cheapest way to do that?
Nothing wrong with being smart with your money, mate.
No, that's right. So I was like, okay, so how do I achieve that? How do I get there? And sort of took it upon myself to do a lot of research and Qantas and all that. But that's where I was like, okay, I think I'll join defence and join the Army or join the Air Force. And yeah, went to like DFR, and it was from there. So
yeah, ADFA you went through?
Well, yeah. So I first applied, and they're like, oh, what maths have you got? And I was like, I've got the you know, the one where you learn about like chance and risk and all that.
BODMAS?
Yeah. And they're like, that's not good enough. And I was like, oh man. So I actually had to go back to TAFE and do 2-unit advanced mathematics.
How old were you here? So you'd finished school, of course.
Yeah, it was like 18, 19. So I was working at Harvey Norman as like a salesman in like my part-time and just going to TAFE just to do maths. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like the other people in the TAFE were very interesting. They had their own stories, and I was like, yeah, I'm literally here just so I can join the Army or join the Air Force. So.
Yeah, just I'm here for a purpose, and that's it, mate. Yeah. Good on you. It shows an element of commitment and sort of focus on what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You went back, no doubt the same recruiting person you spoke to has probably moved on, or were they still there?
No, it was actually it was a very long process, because obviously it went for like 18 months, and I distinctly remember going through that process as like a 17-year-old applying, and then they were like, you got to go back to maths and then come back to us, and I was like, okay, happy days. Got the right scores I needed within like 6. I think it took like 8 months, and then I went to DFR, went through the process. And like I distinctly remember one story. I distinctly remember the psychiatrist psychiatrist. Yeah, the psychiatrist interview where they tell you about suitability and during your session.
Is this doing the officer selection board sort of thing?
Yeah, going through that process.
Yeah.
And I just distinctly remember, like, I'm a person who doesn't really like awkward silences. So I'm a person who, you know, loves to chat about anything. And I remember going to this person's office and I walk in there and I sit down and then the psychiatrist comes in and sits down and she's like, hey, so tell me about this. And I'm like, yep. And then it just was very quiet for a period of time. And I saw, like, on the wall, I saw this, like, picture of a lady ice climbing. And I was like, oh, yeah, so do you like to do, like, that sort of stuff in your own time? Or, like, I'm really interested in that sort of stuff as well. And I wasn't. I was just, like, trying to make chat.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, this is not my office. I was like, oh, okay. And then it was super awkward from then on. I was like, there is no way I'm going to get this job. Or I thought...
You would have been sitting there like this.
Yeah, 100%. I was like, oh, God, it's over. It's over before it's even begun. But luckily, yeah, I got the phone call, hey, and I had applied for both Air Force and Army. And they were like, look, we've got a spot for you in the Army. And I was like, yep, sure, happy to take it. Didn't even think about the
You're
different...
thinking maybe flying choppers then?
Well, I didn't even, like, to be honest, I hadn't really even thought about that far. I was like, I just want to fly. Like, I don't really mind when I fly. And so that sent me down a fork, you know, joining the Army. And then I had to do the selection board in Tamworth for 2 weeks. And that was a whole bunch of fun. Like, getting to, you know, go from no flying experience to flying and doing a whole bunch of cool stuff in 1 week. And then the selection board for the officer part in the second week.
Yeah.
Was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So,
good on you, mate.
Yeah.
How was ADFA, by the way?
Oh, that was... good. Like, I don't know how much I can say on this, but it was real good.
Yeah, no.
No.
Plenty of people that I've spoken to, and even other mutual friends of ours. It's a joint environment, of course,
Yep.
Army, Navy, Air Force, and you've got mates, guys and girlfriends that you'll now have for the rest of your career that are in other services, going up through their ranks as well. So, as opposed to just going through Duntroon, you're just Army specific. You don't have any Air Force or Navy mates.
Yeah.
So I'm actually not that I did either, as you know. But yeah, certainly I've just noticed, speaking to people over the years, that going through ADFA, your span of friends and your network is just so much broader.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know people now that we talk to, even though I'm out, I talk to people that are in from the Navy, Army, Air Force, who, you know, were around my year, maybe years above or even years below. But yeah,
Sure.
You're definitely right. And ADFA gave me a chance to grow up, I guess, before you go to Duntroon, and that's when...
Yeah.
You know, stuff starts to happen.
I loved my time down at Duntroon as the leadership instructor. I only got to do it once, but I got to march the officer cadets over the hill.
Oh, yep.
I was instructed to say to them that the M in Royal Military College stands for military. This is actually a military organisation. We're going to do military shit, not bloody pretend to be at university and fucking bonk up in the rooms. So, mate, how did you find the transition from ADFA into, and certainly you do some field exercise in ADFA anyway, but certainly it would have brought in a really sharp focus about, right, this is serious shit. I'm now training to be a lieutenant in the Army. Yeah,
definitely. Like, I mean, I joined ADFA as a science student. And like within 2 weeks, I was like, no, that's way too intense for me. I'm joining business.
I want to have fun.
It's like business or arts. I'm joining business. It was awesome. Like, really learned some good life skills, you know, which came to play later on down the track, buying houses and like all that sort of stuff, understanding the economy. But you know, it was graduation from ADFA, and then it was like, hey, we're going across the hill. And I was like, I remember that walk across, and it was, oh God, like, what have we got?
What year are we talking here?
2012, 13. So
right.
End of 12, start of 13.
Yeah, good. Any reflections on Duntroon sort of worth talking about?
No,
growing, evolving, learning, graduating.
I went back as an instructor.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was really cool last year.
Yep.
For the whole year I was an instructor. But yeah, I mean, when I first, you know, got there, I had no real idea what I was like. I was like when you get selected as a pilot, it's sort of like, oh yeah, you're a pilot. You need to pass and you need to achieve everything you need to, but you know, whether you need to apply yourself, and that's what I probably missed out on, is I probably should have really focused on doing, you know, and really enjoying what everybody's putting forward for you. And that's what I saw as an instructor. It's like, it's sort of changed now where everyone seems to apply themselves, and I thought that was really cool.
Good to hear. As opposed to joining going, I'm going to be a fucking infantry officer, like they're right into the tactics and right into the manoeuvre. You're just like, I'm never going to do this shit because I'm going to be a pilot.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll go do it as a box ticking exercise.
Like, spoiler alert, I'm not a pilot. So that's, we haven't got to that part yet.
Which corps did you end up going to?
Well, so no, I went to pilot training.
Right.
I did like 5 months there, and I really let myself like lapse in terms of a couple of things really early on, which then you get
surprises me about you.
You get like a 3 strikes rule in the rugby. I was rugby and all sorts I was getting distracted by all sorts down in Tamworth. So,
yeah, righto.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, but for every hour of flying you do like 8 or 9 hours of study at least. And from the beginning, I wasn't ready for that. So I guess I sort of underestimated it, and then it really came to bite me in the butt later on. And I think that's a really big life lesson that I've learned.
Good.
You don't let things build up, and you try and prepare yourself as best as you can. So
yeah, over prepare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no harm in doing that. So.
Yeah, mate. Very very humble of you to say that. So. Tell us about the circumstances where you knew the flying career just wasn't like. There's another Y junction.
Yeah, 100%.
What are you doing now?
I mean, now I'm so far off the track. I'm not Qantas. I'm not anything. I'm not army pilot. I'm now like, okay, oh God.
So what happens to someone who gets to that point?
Well, yeah. So I remember sitting in a room, and I was with a good mate of mine, and it was like, hey, you two both, we don't have any more flying hours for you. That is it. You can put in, you redress if you want, but hardly ever gets up. I mean, we still gave it a go. But
they weren't even offering you to fly a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong.
No, nothing. Not at all. So, I was like, okay. I looked at it and I was like, what job can I do in the army that will give me the best life skills so that I can get out almost immediately? I was sick. I was like, I didn't want to be a part of the organisation. Flying was the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I just thought about it, and I was like, I just want to get something that has direct life skills outside, and give me a job outside, and off I go. Yeah,
right. And that certainly happened. Spoiler alert. We're going to talk about that.
But I mean, it was like 8 years
Correct.
Right?
There was a fair bit of stuff that happened. So, yeah, what ended up happening from Tamworth?
So it was like engineering was a good one. I applied for. I didn't have an engineering degree, so they didn't take me.
You're like, not more fucking TAFE.
Yeah. And off to TAFE for 6 months. I doubt I could do that in 6 months. But so I chose ordnance in logistics. I was like, that's something that, I've spoken to a few people, and they were like, yeah, it directly translates to roles outside, and everyone needs, some sort of logistics practitioner in anywhere you go. So
everyone, yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm doing that for 12 months, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it, I'm done. So yeah, I chose logistics core, and I went off to Ipswich up at 9 FSB as a logistics platoon commander.
At a RAF base Ambly.
Yeah. And I mean, I had not...
Where's fucking pilots everywhere.
Yeah, you get reminded of not being a pilot every Thursday as they fly over and you can't hear yourself. So I'm like, oh, God damn it.
What was that like? So you're like a new troop commander in 9 FSB?
Yeah, so someone who didn't really pay attention in RMC was like, okay, I'm a pilot, so I don't need to really worry about this stuff. This is never going to, happen to me.
Yep.
To, okay, I rock up on the job and I've now got like 35 people, and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yep. Now I've got to remember back to Matt as a staff cadet, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, try and pull out all the documentation that I'd filed away and thought I'd never use. So that was like day one, okay, need to go back into, management skills. And RMC prepares you for that. So
indeed,
walked into the job and I loved it. Like, enjoyed it, went outfield. I like good times on Talisman Sabre and stuff like that.
As an ex-senior NCO that went down the Duntroon as an instructor, clearly one of my key messages to them, Matt, was the most important relationship a young lieutenant's going to have is that with their sergeants.
Yep.
How did you get on with sort of people that were obviously much older than you, much more experienced than you, but you were their boss? Yeah,
so I mean, like, and that's the weird, well, not the weird thing, but I guess the unusual thing about logistics, where it's not like an infantry platoon where you have, an one SNCO or one warrant officer, and that's your group. So I had like 2 warrant officers, and I had like 3 sergeants and a whole bunch of soldiers, working, and I had to quickly learn or rely on them to learn about the technical side in addition to the management side. So I found it really helpful. They provided a lot of guidance on, hey, this is how supply chain works. This is how our information systems work. All that sort of stuff was really helpful. And I was someone who would always be found, in the warehouse wandering around trying to figure out, hey, why does that happen? Or why does that work like that? Like, I really enjoyed that side of it.
When I only spent 4 years as a senior NCO, but people spend a lot longer. And certainly, therefore, we have young lieutenants come in and out of our life. Obviously, Duntroon pumps out a bloody new lieutenant. Every 6 months, quite frankly, they go and do their ROBC, and then you've got a new, 19, 21-year-old bloody guy or girl on the block, and you've got to go through that mentor stage. So senior NCOs get quite used to doing that. It's just part of the job, I suppose. The ultimate test as far as whether that relationship will be successful or not, though, is a lieutenant's ability or willingness to close their mouth and open their eyes and their ears and listen to the experience being passed to them. Do you feel like you did a good job at that?
At times,
Yep.
I probably didn't. I probably was like, I put a line in the sand as like, hey, I'm sick of... And then I also reflect on that later in my career. I did that as well. It was like, I've seen a process happen for long enough, and I totally understand. I totally get... Don't be the person that rocks up on day one and starts changing things. Like, let's see how it happens. But after a while, I was like, look, it's just not working this way. Let's change it. And there was still a bit of, hey, no, let's not change it. I've seen that done this way before. And I learnt from that. Like, you see it fail again, you're like, okay, maybe I see why that failed. But
yeah, and it's a rite of, conversely, it's a rite of passage for us that were officers for many years. We change locations and we go to new places, and we're actually charged with going there to improve things. And to be fair, you want to be able to make your mark, put your stamp on things, leave an organisation in a better position than what it was when you first got there, which always sort of incorporates change, pivots, updating, procedures or whatever. And humans fucking hate changes. Yeah, especially when you're like, dare I say it, fat, dumb and happy in your role, and and you've been doing it the same way for a while, and then someone comes in and wants you to change it, they're like, here we fucking go again. Yeah. So it is a balancing act, mate. So, like I said, I've been on both sides of the fences there. So it's interesting to hear sort of your perspective. What's some of the highlights of your military career then, mate?
Training recruits was really fun.
You did a year down at Kapuka as a platoon commander?
Yeah, so
good.
That was my third year as a lieutenant.
That would have been insightful to go down and, right, you've seen the officer production machine, and now you go down to see the soldier production machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
good.
completely different. Of course. Very structured.
Yeah.
But you got to see a lot of good people graduate from there, and you run into them and around the place. From there, I then went to Special Operations Engineer Regiment as like the QM. So now I'm like the key loggy or logistician there. So I went from someone with no experience to managing all these different streams, mixed streams of people, getting to understand engineering, intelligence signals, all those sorts of things. So that was quite cool to understand and get an exposure there. But the highlight would probably be I deployed from there to Afghanistan in 2018. And my job was working within the headquarters there of NATO, which was joint. So I worked for I was supposed to have a colonel from Romania as a boss, but he wasn't there for the first 3 months.
Right.
So I worked for a 1-star Italian general and a 2-star American general.
Cool, awesome.
And that was really eye-opening to see different nations doing that sort of stuff.
Fuck, talk about life skills.
Yeah.
Talk about worldly experiences, as you've mentioned a couple of times. Good on you, mate. Yeah.
So my role was as in one of the sole Australians in that part of the headquarters there, was to see what the Afghan local population had for their airport and buy equipment to support them to be able to run that airport. So that I was in Dubai buying ambulances, or we were organising, fire trucks from Switzerland or somewhere like that. And
wow.
Aircraft de-ices from Ireland. It was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, learnt a lot.
You just would have been just doing things on the fly and literally going to sleep every night going, holy fuck, what a day have I... And then you wake up the next morning and you're like, I'm now prepared for the next one. But your exposure to things would have been so intense that your learning curve would have just been straight up in the air.
Where else do you find in an organisation where they just throw you in like that and they're like, all right, off you go, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you agree, whether you absolutely knew what you were doing every day or not, you rock up in that Australian uniform, how's that perceived around the world?
Oh, it's we're professionals, right? Yeah. Everyone is like, oh, we know you guys work hard and you get the job done. So that was really refreshing to see, and that reputation.
Yeah, good. Had you started your property journey by then?
So I think I was looking at buying property. Well, so I had.
Because you came to us with one already.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't want to mention that one.
That's all right, man.
That's worse than your Gladstone one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worse.
Well, I've sold it now, so.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll take us back to the start. So, economics, money management, being smart with your life, worldly experiences. Like, it's a great outlook you've got. When did you also know you're like, fuck, I want to make some moolah in my life and secure my financial future. I want to get into the property market as well.
Yeah. So actually, I can see how this is going to end up quite a loop. So I left RMC and I was like, I want to buy a property. I've got this money saved up from RMC. I didn't save anything at ADFA, but RMC, yeah.
Mooseheads has all your money.
Yeah. That and this place here, I think.
Yeah, right. It's Goldie.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I want to buy a property. So I was looking at townhouses in North Lakes, just up the road. Yep. And we found, a group or online that we sort of went through and we approached and was like, yeah, let's buy a property. And they flew me up here to see 2 properties. And I chose one, and I had done a lot of research in terms of how to, set up offset loans and how to structure loans and all that. But I probably hadn't done as much research as I needed to in terms of townhouses versus houses, building versus buying, something that's already established. And so I bought a townhouse in North Lakes that was one of like 38, and I was happy with it. Like, yep, cool. Got a tenant in it straight away, and away we went. Like, it was managed, paid that.
Set and forget.
Yep.
Happy days.
And yes,
how old was it when you bought it? Was it relatively new?
It was like 2 or 3 years old.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah. So that was 2014, 15. Yep. And then I just had sort of set it on automatic mode. It wasn't really paying itself off. It was just interest only. It was something that. Passive income that as the property increases, rent looks after it, all good.
Totally fine.
Yeah. And then I got to about 2017, 2018 and it hadn't really gone anywhere. It had actually gone down.
Right.
Quite a bit. So I think I bought it for like 375 and it was at like 340 4 years later. So I was like, I'm a bit stuck here. But luckily after the deployment, I came back with a bit more money and I was like looking into places, and that's when your Axon group popped up.
Yeah.
And I think I might have even made contact with you whilst I was overseas, but I definitely, as soon as we got back, it was like, hey, how do we get this property journey started?
Yeah.
And I was very hesitant, obviously, because
of course
I hadn't heard from those people ever since I bought from them.
That still rings in my ears now, and I've got this little saying: and take this away. Current or budding business owners, if one way to have your clients go and work with someone else is stop communicating with them.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because I'm like, what are you doing here? You've already got another group. You're like, I haven't fucking heard from them for ages.
Since settlement. No, not a word.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I want to do this properly and I want to, do a lot of research, and I was very hesitant. Like, I remember I was very standoffish. I sent a couple of emails and made a couple of inquiries. Like, I watched some of your videos and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Maybe not. Maybe I just try and do it myself.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm pretty capable of doing some sort of project management like that.
It was very evident to me when we first started speaking. I'm like, yeah, you knew what an offset account was. You knew about the different finance structures. You obviously had an economics, viewpoint of things for sure. It was. I really enjoyed coaching you. I had even though we had another coach, I had the privilege of being your direct coach.
Yeah.
And I know we brought your girlfriend at the time, Jen, into the place. So she would have been, she was obviously sitting there wondering, who's this strange guy Matt's talking to on the internet?
In the lounge.
Is this a dating show or something? I'm like, no, it isn't. But mate, to your credit, you were open to learning, and obviously we built trust and we built rapport, and shared information, and you had a chance at having a crack at the Axon journey.
Yeah.
So
no, I remember I was like, no, I don't want to include Jen. I don't want to, if anything goes wrong. Oh,
that's right. At first.
I was like, I don't want to. If anything goes wrong, I don't want to be dragging her into it. And then I remember it was like, hey,
the numbers don't work.
Well, it was that, and I remember you distinctly saying, hey, are you going to marry this girl, or is she going to be part of your life long term? And I was like, yeah. And you're like, well,
what are you waiting for?
Yeah. Don't be stupid. So
yeah, we actually got Deb, the mortgage broker, to crunch the numbers. I just spoke to her on the phone before. Yeah. She knows we're having this call. She absolutely passed on her best regards.
Yeah.
And yeah, I said, look, Deb, Matt just wants to sort of do it by himself, just doing the boy thing. I'm beating my chest if you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify. And then when she ran the numbers and said, look, it doesn't quite work, but if Jen does come on the loan, you guys are going to kill it. So there was a small little decision point that you guys just had to make, I suppose.
Yeah.
And hey, presto, you went and bought, built your first property with us.
Yeah.
We don't need to name locations, of course, because that was specific to what you needed, and mate, it's done very well since then.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
So it's again sitting there looking after itself.
And we still have the same tenant. Same
yeah.
person.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. All right, beautiful. And there's plenty more to go in that location as well. As you know, it's a massive project, of which it's still very, very much in its infancy. When did you? So we ended up going back down the Duntroon. How did that sort of come about? And what were your you're no doubt looking forward to going back down there, because I remember going back to Kapuka as an RI.
Yeah.
I was fucking bursting out of my bloody skin to go back down there.
Practicing yelling.
Yeah, practicing yelling. And I got to bloody day 3 and I couldn't fucking talk. I'm like, I need to find a new way to communicate. No shit. So what were you thinking and feeling about going back to the College of Knowledge?
So I had a posting at Forcom headquarters in Paddington, and I had an amazing apartment right on the harbour there. And I was like, oh man, this is the life. This is like, I don't feel like I'm in army anymore. This is amazing. But when postings came up, I was like, okay, I was thinking about my career long term, and I was going, okay, if I need, if I want to get the subunit command that I want, then I'm going to have to, perform very highly in some sort of high performing role. And so the opportunity came to go to RMC, and I was like, oh, yeah, sounds great. Like, awesome. I remember what it was like way back when, and I was like, oh, okay, as an instructor, it'd probably be a lot better as well. So that came up, and, it's Jen's got, we've both got like a large support network in Sydney, so it's just down the road. So we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we moved to Canberra, and I started RMC, it's January last year, which was in between sort of COVID lockdowns.
Oh, right. It would have been too. Yeah, that was, so it would have, your remembering of how Duntroon was for you and how it actually turned out for you would have been a little bit misaligned.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
like, not only has the place matured, but also the ability to work virtually as well was very interesting. So, so January I started there, and I was actually supposed to be like the package master of admin and administration. I was like, oh yeah, it's not really a role at RMC, but it's important. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, oh, okay. So, but like day 2, they're like, oh yeah, we need a second class instructor. You're a second class instructor. Boom. So yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I had been preparing from the handover in December the year before to be the package master, PAD, UAD.
Yeah.
But like everything, it's like last minute. No, you're going outfield. This is what you need to do. You'll have a section, and I was like...
Now you're probably really thinking, going, fuck, I was not listening to this shit when I was a cadet. Now I've got to instruct it. And as you know, Matt, the true test of whether you know something is when you've got to teach it to someone else.
Oh, 100%. So, like, I walked into, like, they gave, like, a lecture in the main theatre there. And they're like, all right, everyone break off in your syndicate groups. You'll meet your sections, and your section group instructor will be there. And I remember walking into that room, and there was, like, 10 people looking at me. And here I am about to teach something. And I can't remember what I said, but I think I taught it pretty good. But I was just like, I don't know where this knowledge came from, but
as the saying goes, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Yeah, 100%. That was me, very much.
Did you? It would have been surreal. I was leaning forward, and no doubt the cadets would have been hanging off every word you were saying. Like, because you remember from being there. You've got a bloody captain. He's got, he or she's got many, many more years' experience, and you are aiming and aspiring to be like them one day.
Yeah,
they would have been hanging off every word, mate. So I'm sure from what I know about your personality, you would have been that guy to mentor and lead and teach and groom them, because that's, as opposed to beat them down or bloody belittle them. Certainly give them some energetic feedback to make sure they're doing the right thing. Nothing wrong with that. But I am positive that you would have been a great instructor for them.
Yeah,
do you feel like you provided that service to them?
I think so, and I stayed with second class, then moved through to first class and saw them graduate. So that was really cool.
Yeah, excellent.
To see that whole group graduate.
Yeah,
but like I mentioned earlier, it was okay, you're a second class instructor, so I was like, all right, go home, do a lot more reading now and something completely different. Yeah. But yeah, it was good, and it all came back, and you understood, and whilst things have changed in the way they learn, or like things that we were teaching is fundamentally very much similar to.
I remember distinctly. So you were down there, and it would have been early last year, and you're like, hey, Robbie, me and Jen want to reach out. Like, we're in Canberra now. Can we just do a refresh coaching session? I'm like, of course, bro. We can jump online whenever you want. I'll tell this story all the time. I'm like, all right, so yep, this is your plan. This is what your property that you got with us. This is how it's performing right now. You guys are still like, I'm like top right hand corner, right? I'm like, yep. How much are you on now, Jen? What are you working? Still double income, no kids. And you went, actually. I'm like, what's up? And I can't remember whether it was you or her, and I still tell this story. You got your phone out and you pointed it towards the screen, and it was the scan. It was the scan from the option. I'm like, fuck me, when did that happen? They're like, just then. Like, we've only, from what I remember anyway, probably not 100% correct, we've just recently got back in from seeing the obstetrician. I'm like, who else have you told? You're like, you're the first person we've told. So yeah, I still tell that story now, because when I'm going through my coaching, I'm like, now, is there anything on your phone you need to show me? I still do it to this day. So that was you guys were pregnant.
Yep.
Having your first child. So obviously that's now been and gone. Like how is it being a dad?
Oh, it's awesome. Like it's happened so quickly. I mean, Ella's like 7 months now.
Ella, yep.
Yeah, so
Lovely.
she's rolling and starting to crawl. And
how's Jen as a mum? Amazing, no doubt.
She loves it. She's enjoying it. Yeah. So.
Good. How was she when she went through the pregnancy? Because she's not large. She's a very petite young lady.
Yeah.
How was she?
Oh, if you ask her, she'll you won't she'll give you an answer.
Right.
And it's not pretty. She so obviously being an RMC, you go outfield a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, went outfield a lot, and she was sick through most of it.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah. I distinctly, I was like on some top of a feature, like not getting much phone reception, and she's like, hey, like the car, is the insurance paid for? I've just been stopped, and she's like losing it at me, and I was like, oh god, this is a bad day. I was like, I can't hear you. You're not quite yet. So
breaking up.
Yeah, but no, all through it, unfortunately, like she was just sick for a lot of it. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, yeah, like we got the perfect little one now. So
yeah.
And she's like, I want more, and I was like, you sure you want more?
Yeah. Part of that conversation, of course, we're like, look, we're down in Canberra, we're going to be here for a few years, maybe want to sort of pivot towards using our ADF housing entitlements and buying your own home down there. So that's obviously transpired as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a massive congrats from me to you, mate.
Thanks.
You guys are now living in your own home. You've another person that's beat me to the punchline. I'm still not living in my own home yet. But mate, how was that sort of experience buying your own home down in Canberra, still being posted as an instructor, etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, I sort of made the decision that I wanted to stay in Canberra, because looking forward, it was I'm going to post from Canberra to maybe Sydney, Darwin, Brisbane, Townsville, wherever, 2 years there, and then if everything goes to my plan and I'm doing really well, then I'm back in Canberra, staff college, and doing that, and then another post in Canberra and then somewhere else. So I was like, very disruptive looking forward, and I was like, okay, depending on. So I actually tried to apply for CTMC, which is like the management course down there for projects, and they were like, nah, sorry, we're not going to give you a spot. Unfortunately, you're not senior enough. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's when I started like looking around, and I was like, okay, mapping it forward, let's get a house. And the prices in Canberra just kept going up and up and up, and we were going to auction after auction after auction, and eventually we landed one, and managed to use all our entitlements to get it, and sold the place up in North Lakes, but still have the property through you guys.
Yeah, great.
So used all the entitlements, moved in. I think we moved in on Christmas Eve.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. And then the baby was born on the 28th. So
right.
4 days later.
Yeah.
So it was a bit,
Jen would have loved doing that.
Jen was not happy when I was like, oh, we can get this house and we can settle within 30 days, because it was the final day of the year before banks close. So if they didn't settle then it was like going to be January 7th.
Yep.
We would have had at best like a 1 week year old. Like it was all happening.
Yeah.
I was like, nah,
like
logistics.
a brand new baby.
Yeah, brand new.
Yeah,
like, I was like, nah, logistics, I've got this. Like, let's do this.
This is my bag.
Yeah, I was like, all right, as long as you don't have the baby during the day we move in or pack up. I'm
Not
good.
that she's in control of this, by the way.
I was like, that's the only risk to my plan here and it's a massive risk. But yeah, I was like, anything else, we're good. Like, just not that day. So yeah, I was carrying all the boxes.
Love it. When did the first little fire in your belly start to really, because you've just explained to me that you've got a budding career going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Multiple other postings that, to get that seniority as a captain, no doubt kicking ass, continuing to perform, automatic bloody selection to go to staff college, do your subunit command, go to staff college, on your way to being a bloody lieutenant colonel. But there's another Y junction coming up.
Yeah, another fork in the road.
Massively. So just tell us about that, because the first time I knew that you were actually that you'd separated from the military, because obviously I linked you in with my network to buy your own home down there, and you guys went and did all that, which is great. And then I saw on LinkedIn, I'm like, Matty Lodden. I'm like, fuck, that's what's going on there? So that had dropped off my radar. Not that you need to ring me and go, hey, Robbie, I've got an update for you. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear, and I know lots of other listeners out there are no doubt thinking, going, I'm going to get out one day, and I might, they might want to start their own fucking lawn mowing business in Townsville or whatever. It's irrelevant what you're doing, but it's all about the fire in the heart, and then what actually happened, through the mechanics of getting it started.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had done a little bit of project work at my posting in Sydney. I'd been exposed to projects and working, and I really enjoyed, providing that new capability and that process to providing capability for someone, in this instance was Army and Forces Command. So I studied like a Masters of Logistics Management, but majoring in projects, on the side. And I was like, I really enjoy this. So when I was told no at CTMC, that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit. And then it sort of drew on my mind, and the baby was coming. We bought a house. I was like, okay, let's start to really make the decision. What am I going to do? And two of my really good friends, who are both actually, the directors of the company as well that I work for, they were out. Or getting out, and they had lots of experience transitioning, and they were like, it's not so bad on the outside, it's a pretty safe jump to what they're doing, and consulting and contracting, and they were working for a project management company, and they really enjoyed it, and just talking to them more and more really convinced me, hey, this is probably what I want to do. So 6 months beforehand, I started looking around at what courses I need to do, and Defence, they provide some of that funding as part of the transition assistance.
Yep.
To do some
CTAS,
of those,
is it still called?
I think
Career
so,
Transitions Assistance Scheme.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and get $4 or $5 to go do a course.
Yeah,
something. Yep.
So I was able to do 2 courses out of that.
Great.
And that was really helpful. I got to know people in the course, understand a bit of the industry I wanted to go into, and then these guys were like, actually, we want to start our own business, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know much about that, but I want to hear more. And so we talked about it, and then they had started, or one of them had started, and so they began planning and began, the background. We hadn't launched, it was just literally on paper. Business name, Zilor Group, an idea, developed a vision of what we wanted to do, provide, professional services, to government primarily. And I then took maternity leave from Defence and had submitted my transition paperwork. And I was just...
How was that received, by the way? Because that would have...
Yeah.
Who was your... don't know no names, but your SI first class, I suppose, would have been going, what the fuck?
Yeah, so I told the previous year, I told them that, hey, this is my intention. Gave them probably a warning, because that's the fair thing to do.
It is.
But unfortunately, it was a new one that posted in, and they, they were a bit like, oh man, when we're a bit short on people already, and I felt, I felt really bad, but I was like, look, at some point you just got to do what you want to do for yourself. So, yeah. So I spent most of my maternity leave writing policy, which wasn't very well received by Jen, but it was like writing policy, visions, templates, all these things that I hadn't
for Zilor Group.
Yeah, for Zilor Group. Yeah,
Zilor Group.
So something that I hadn't really considered as a business owner that I'd need to do, because one thing we really pride ourselves on is setting up that really good foundation, and then it doesn't matter how big or small we are, it's always going to be quite good and professional. And
tell me, you would have no doubt written op-ords and policies and procedures and stuff in the military. What was it like when you were putting emotional energy and thought and passion into something that was going to be yours?
Easy. Yeah.
So
here I am.
Find your passion, make it your profession, you're never fucking working.
Yeah.
And how good is it?
I was like a man on maternity leave. I could have just sat by the beach. Not that there is one in Canberra.
Yeah, I get it.
But I could have just sat there and done not a lot. I mean, I probably should have helped Jen out a bit more with the baby, but she loved it. And
I can't wait for her to listen to this.
I was just loving, I was like, what else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? So I began to we started setting up websites, we started setting up LinkedIn, all those sorts of things to, get a business off the ground. And then, in the background, I was also applying for jobs. And I was lucky enough, we submitted my CV to a whole bunch of places. And, one day they were I got a call from CASG and they were like, when can you start? I was like, what do you mean? And when can you start? I was like, is there no job interview? Or they're like, nah, all good.
Ex-army officer.
We're happy with your resume? I was like, oh my God, okay, yep, 2 weeks. And they're like, sure, see you on the 27th or I think it was the 10th of March in the end.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh God, here we go. It's the business, whilst, it's very daunting starting a business, it was because it was just me and, Matt Rosenthal, the other director. It was just there's no real outside. You don't need to worry about how people think of your business or because we haven't put that out there yet. And so I was I hadn't really thought about I'm not an army officer anymore because I felt like I was on holidays because I was really enjoying what I was doing. And then 10th of March, I was like, oh God, what do I do?
So CASG contacted you guys to contract you to start them providing services.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's good.
Yeah.
That's like getting a fish the first time you go fishing.
Well, yeah, so I submitted my CV to them and they were like, yep, you're all good to start. And I was like, okay. So yeah, 9th of March, the week before I'm at MJ Bale buying suits and I was like, oh God.
I need to bloody step up here.
I was like, I can't just wear the same thing to work every day. It's a bit different.
Yeah.
And then,
we do.
Yeah. Jealous.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. And then, 10th of March, it was like, bang, away you go.
Good on you.
Robbed up and...
Yeah.
And so I started as, I'm a logistics sustainment manager in CASG at the moment. I'm contracting there. And really enjoy that work and really enjoy working in that.
How many other uniformed people around you?
Not many.
Right.
Not many at all. So it's a lot of APS, public servants. So, getting used to working with them because I hadn't worked with a lot of them before. But it's great, really professional. And then, it's weird when you see other service people in the office and you're like, oh, man, when are you posting next? It's like,
yes,
I'm here. So,
mate, from me to you, it takes quite a few. It's probably a bit weird for me because as you experienced, I talk to defence members all day, every day.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still in. I feel like I'm just a visiting lecturer that's come along and just giving a talk about something which is relevant to their life anyway.
Yeah.
ADF, housing entitlements, wealth creation. And as I did with Jen and yourself, it's not just about property. You got to talk about what's happening in your life. You're doing family planning. You're doing career management. Sometimes I'm a bloody marriage counsellor. Sometimes I'm a padre, and obviously then we put a property plan in place as well. So it's it can't just be about buying property. You've got to sink in all the other things that are going in your life. But I'm so proud of you, man, that you've been able to transition out. But so you probably feel like you're still in for many months to come.
Yeah.
That's my advice to you, and because you are contracting back to defence, that feeling it's like you've got a intangible tentacle cord, or dare I say umbilical cord, with a newborn, back to defence. So I get a sense you'll probably have that feeling of still being in uniform-ish for quite a while to come.
Yeah, the safety net was definitely there because it's still the defence network, the same language that you're speaking. And then I actually felt like I knew a lot more than the people in my office because they were, they worked for APS. They didn't really aware of all of the organisation of Army that I was, privileged to work in. But
yeah, gold. Mate, there's a lot to be said about being familiar and having that element of relatability.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier that you can rock up. You just, because as you know, my background, I got out and I went and joined for another firm, and we were sort of talking to defence members. I've been talking to defence members since the day I got out. I don't even know what life would be like just totally cutting that umbilical cord and going work in another sector that didn't have the same acronyms and language and vernacular and stuff that we sort of talk about. It's so natural to me.
Yeah.
But fuck, when you join at 17 and get out at 41, there's a few years of indoctrination, a few years of brainwashing that's it's probably going to take another 10 years to leave me, and it may not ever do that because we're still we're very much involved in organisations like Soldier On, and we give thousands of dollars back to veteran charities. So it's like we're that's who I am.
Yeah.
Like the military and the veteran organisation, and I really hope that you guys continue to be able to contract back to defence because you as a young person, the defence gave you a lot of skills and a lot of leg up and a lot of opportunity to now go and spread your wings.
Oh no, definitely, and we recognise that. Like we're at 7 now, looking into
good on you.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's great is we're meeting people from outside of defence who want to work for us or work with us, who are like happy to work in defence. So it's quite interesting because we have to now teach people, hey, these are like the terms and this is how people speak, and helping them in their journey. So, like Department of Education, other like areas like that, where people are approaching us like, hey, we recognise what you're trying to do and we want to be a part of it. So.
One other bit of advice I'd pass on to you, mate, maybe you can consider it with Matt, did you say the other guy?
Yeah.
Is get some business coaching. You know how you guy came to me for property coaching, and the way that we did it was vastly different to the way that someone else did it. I've documented this a lot, haven't I, Noah, on the other podcasts. Noah's our little executive producer sitting here in the background. Getting some business coaching or having business coaching and being directed and guided and mentored and awareness of what the sort of best practices are around sales, marketing, HR, et cetera, accounts is absolutely vital. As you grow, you're definitely going to need to do some. So just find somewhere in your budget to get some business coaching, and I'm more than happy to pass on some of the details of the folks we use down in Sydney, which means we can catch up even more frequently. Because even when we caught up down in Sydney about 2 years ago, I was down there on one of our business coaching things when we had a nice dinner and stuff together. So, mate, definitely. If you want to, like, you've already been humble enough to put your hand in the air and say, I want to do property correctly this time. Now that you've got all of your chips in life on the table, that's what happens when you're a business owner.
Yeah.
You can't ring your boss and go, fucking take a few days sick leave, because then you're not making any money.
Right,
if you're not working the business, not making money. So, definitely try and get some business coaching under your belt, because there's a shit tin about business that I still don't know. And I've been in business now for 5.5 years. And remember that little sign we all used to walk under at Duntroon, never stop learning? Guess what? You're in the game now. We should be learning. We should be always learning in all ways.
Yeah. No, I completely
Have a think
agree.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a fucking crazy one, isn't it? Tell me about the name, mate. Where'd that come from?
So that's actually a mixture of the directors of the company.
Right.
Yeah. But Zilor Group, 9 people, professional services company.
When you say that, what does that mean? Like,
So-
just explain to me what you actually do.
Yeah, so we're looking at hiring anybody really with qualifications, or even if you don't, it's sort of, we're trying to assist defence, assist government in fulfilling their needs. So we find people who are suitable, maturity, qualifications wise, and put them in roles like project
Is
management.
it like a recruitment firm?
No, so we hire them permanently.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's for like project management, project support, logistics managers and logistics practitioners primarily.
Yeah, gold.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
they're providing a capability to defence, capability to all government organisations.
Yeah.
But we hire them, permanent employees, and we're trying to build a really big good culture, like something like you've got here, right? Where it's something everyone's continuously learning, continuously building, and that's something that we're really. And I mean, one thing that one of the owners or the founders learned was not everyone is remunerated appropriately when they leave defence.
Sure.
Right, it's quite hard, and that's one of the things when you leave is, what do I ask for, or what do I want, or what am I worth?
Because there's a package.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
When you've got reduced rent, when you've got free medical, 2 things that spring to mind straight away. In the real world, brother, as you are now experiencing, you got to pay for that shit.
Oh, private health insurance. I was like, what? How does that work?
Yeah,
I rocked up to my GP with my Medicare card and my private health insurance card. I was like, hey, which one do you take? They're like, oh, you got a gap. I'm
Yeah,
like, what does that
correct.
mean?
Yeah. It is a really unusual thing to go through. And please don't make my mistake. I was like, I'll get the bloody private stuff sorted out. About 150 days after I got out is when I got my private healthcare insurance. And I've now got a lifetime loading on my fucking Medicare because I wasn't on private healthcare and I was of a certain age, etc. So yeah, you just don't know what you don't know, mate. When you join so young, like you and I did, I was still on my mum's Medicare card. That's what happens.
So that's what we're priding ourselves on doing down in Canberra is we meet with everybody and anybody who reaches out, whether they want to position with us or whether they're just looking at transitioning. We're happy to talk to them, tell them about our experiences like this, and help them with, CVs or resume writing, reading job descriptions that they might receive from somebody,
Gold.
finding positions. Yeah, so we joined Soldier On to do part of that. We really just are fortunate that, it really worked for myself, Matt and Jake, who's the other partner, that we were able to transition successfully and, enjoy ourselves and find something we really love. So we're happy to pass that on.
Gold, mate. Love it. What's it like being a civvy? You probably don't really feel like it yet, do you?
No, I mean, like you were saying, you talk to defence people all the time, and I find myself busier than I ever was, but I'm really enjoying it.
Has Jen noticed a change in you? If she was sitting in here now, does she know that Mr. Matt as opposed to Captain Matt are two different people?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's good.
I would say so.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you go back and tell yourself, mate, if you were to go? You haven't really been in business long enough. What would you go back and tell the young person that's just started? Let's go ADFA.
Yeah.
What would you go back and tell Matt?
It's such an interesting thing, right? Because, I mean, if I hadn't have failed pilot training, if I hadn't have done so-and-so.
All the whys that we've spoken about.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I could tell myself, I think just really apply yourself in everything you do.
Love it.
And, yeah, it'll just take you wherever it leads you, really. But
yeah. One thing I do know, mate, is that someone of your personality, someone of your drive, someone of your skills, and someone of your outlook, I'm telling you from me to you, mate, the world is at your feet. You are going to achieve so many great things in life, and I really, really wish you the best of luck. To find a niche market and something you're very, very good at. Like the little Ikigai says, find out what you're good at, find out what the world needs, find out what you can be paid for. Yeah. When you get like those three things, and obviously find something that you enjoy. When you nail down all those things, life becomes fucking great. I loved my time in the military, but now when I'm living my best life, and I know you've got that coming your way, mate. I can't wait to see your story evolve. Thank you for sharing your story here on Axons Unleashed, Matty. Thank you so much.
You.
We're now going to go and have a bloody beer and a wine and overlook the water here on the bloody Gold Coast. I hope you got something from that, ladies and gents. That was a bloody cracking episode. It's funny, hey, 50 minutes goes real quick.
Yeah, so quick.
See you later, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.